at Michael Schwab 13. Michael, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, John. How's it going? Hey, Lance. Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate you being here. Why is there a 13 after your name on Twitter?
It's hilarious. Last time I called into you asked the same questions because there's 12 other great Michael Schwabs.
There's not 12 other great Michael Schwabs. Maybe 12 other Michael Schwabs, but not great Michael Schwabs. Okay. Okay. There's only one great Michael Schwab. He's with us here on ESPN 97.5. So, all right. So, did you read Jeff Passan's article today?
I did. And there's some water carrying going on over there. I mean, let me just say this before we get started. You're going to see a lot of pieces coming out about, oh, no, Jim Crane, the evil man, or what happened with James Click. It's going to be double-sided for sure. I just want to preface that if anyone's been following this team since Crane took over, he has always been involved in day-to-day operations. He's always been involved in major things. So there's nothing different here. I think there's just some people sad that James Click is gone.
Yeah, you ain't spending, Luno, guess what? You ain't spending $30 million on a player unless I okay it, right? I mean, so now he did, and I don't know, I don't have inside information on that. I could certainly see it, that he liked Luno's arrogance. He liked the way Luno was cutthroat. He liked the way, because you know what? There's some of that with Jim Crane. That's how he was, and maybe Click was a little bit too passive for Jim Crane's liking. That's just fine. But this whole thing about him wanting more baseball men and a bigger and a better balance of scouts to analytics. What do you think about this?
I mean, I want to say that for sure. Like, you've got two guys, Reggie Jackson and Jeff Bagwell, who are in the ears of Jim Crane and who's listening to and who've been really big in decisions and personnel decisions and choices throughout everything. But also, Crane understands what works as well. I mean, you look at Hench, who was a huge analytics guy and huge player person for sure, but he believed in the analytics, and it's something that's worked. I mean, if you look at the years before 2015 and how they were not doing well, there was a plan in place that Crane believed. It was get the right people, only pay a certain amount, let's get this team building up, and then you create a juggernaut. I think what I talk about in my piece and the major frustration that Jim Crane was really seeing, and this is from people who told me for over many years, is that he wanted to see the bigger deals. He wanted to see the bigger moments. He understood the importance of bringing in prospects, signing international free agents, drafting properly, doing all that. But also he wanted to make big deals like Liam Hendricks happen. He wanted to see Starling Marte happen. I mean, I think we've heard before, but Greinke was a name that literally Jim Crane said, go get Zach Greinke. I don't care how it happens. Go get him. So that's where his mindset is on the top level. These are the big things I want to see. And if you're not getting that done, then you're not the right person for me.
Montero just makes no sense, Michael. This deal makes no sense.
It's an anti-Astro deal relative to historical norm, especially at the relieving spot. Now, this is the first time they've had a lockdown killer bullpen in the postseason. So they've never really been faced with this. Like, wow, our bullpen was historical. But still, the offer at 3 years, and then the number, that did not feel like an Astro signing.
Well, I mean, you have to look at it from different sides. So, yeah, absolutely. 3 years for a reliever who was designated for assignment a year ago and then traded. And that's a good James Click pickup right there in that trade, you know. That was the right decision, but you got to look at his advanced stats. You got to see what he's doing well, and that's what they really like. They love his fastball. They love how he gets batters out. They love his strikeout rate. So what really happened here is you're seeing two major things. You're seeing how the market is being driven right now. You look at Robert Suarez with the Padres, who just got signed for, I think, 5 years, which is crazy for a reliever. Now, he took less guaranteed, but he took more time as a reliever. The market's set, and so you need to say 3 years. Do we want to bring a bullpen back that was absolutely locked down, broke records ERA-wise for a bullpen in the postseason? Then you're going to have to pay a little bit. I think that's what you're seeing from Crane. He's saying, I'm going to give 3 years and I'm going to give the guaranteed and the AAV that you're going to see, where he's the second paid best reliever on the team outside of Ryan Presley. We're going to see more crazy deals because last year the lockout messed everything up. And so now everything's going to pick back up to where these deals are going to look a little crazy because we missed about a major offseason last year.
Michael Schwab with us here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. What do you think of him saying that, he talked about Sig Mejdal? That makes sense, bringing him in as general manager. Okay. What do you think? Well, first of all, Stearns says, I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere. I got another year on my contract with Milwaukee. Despite the fact that he resigned baseball operations, he's still a consultant. And then the idea of Brad Ausmus possibly being the general manager.
Yeah, so the Ausmus thing is funny to me. I don't, he likes these players and he likes these guys that understand the players real well. That's the first time I've actually heard that one. But what I've been hearing from people for several months about Crane is that he wants a Luhnow guy again. He wants someone from the Luhnow tree. That's where you get the David Stearns. That's where you get the Sig. That's where those names keep popping up. Now, I'm going to throw something out there that's a little crazy, but this is what I've been told for a while. My understanding from sources is that Crane had been in contact with A.J. Hinch for possibly taking the GM role for over the past few months, and then Hinch decided to stay with Detroit because of where ownership is going. But he wants to recreate what he had again for the juggernaut years and what we're seeing right now. And this is kind of a turn from this idea of, I'm just going to throw money at everything. I'm going to, not even think about analytics. He does care about that stuff. That's why he's going after someone like Sig Mejdal, who was a part of the team, who was a part of, who's a former NASA person. Like, those things are important to him, but he wants to see the big deals. He doesn't want to know how the other things get there in the analytics. That's where someone else can come here and do the work for him.
But this is what I don't understand. He never was throwing huge money at problems. Like, that's not who he's been. He traded for pitching, which makes sense with Garrett Cole, with Verlander and with Zach Greinke. Those are smart moves when you trade. It's hard to if you can't grow your and of course they've grown pitching since then, but that made sense. But all the moves have always been shrewd moves. In fact, it reminds me of the earlier stages with Daryl Morey at the Rockets, where they figured out value better than anyone else. And so you had a great, you had a discount deal with Michael Brantley. You got a very good hitter on a discount deal because of injuries. I'm not a big fan of. I am a fan of having the people around you that you feel comfortable with in terms of, finding the right GM and things like that. I just think the Astros, Michael, have to be very careful about trying to get too cute and reinvent the wheel, because you talked about their juggernaut days. This is the juggernaut. I mean, they just went 11-2 in the playoffs. They're in the middle of being a juggernaut. Don't try to outwork yourself and make it harder than it needs to be. That's my one concern, because the way that they've operated up to this point has been pretty darn good and extraordinarily effective.
Yeah, but I will say this. You have to look at the construction of the roster right now. In the World Series, it's 80% Jeff Luhnow guys. So these are guys that came to Houston through Luhnow out via trade, international signing. Like those are where you built it up, and you're still living off of that horsepower. But how would you keep building on that into the future? You've got to keep making sure that you're bringing in the right people, that you're keeping the wheels going. And so, if you look at my piece and the major issues that were going on between James Click and Jim Crane, he did never like this Tampa Bay mentality that James Click had. And this is actually really funny. If you read my piece, this is not like hey, Jim Crane's the answer, James Click wasn't. This is, you can look at it from both sides. Here's the path that James Click was going. Let's be smart about it. Jim Crane was like, I want to spend, I want to go for it. And different sources I've talked to who laughed about the whole situation said, we all knew who James Click was. He came from Tampa. What's the difference? He was there for over a decade. This is always who he was. So that's the hard thing for people to see, is just like, I don't know why Click came if he knew it was going to be this way. Maybe he didn't have a choice in 2020. Maybe this is where they had to get someone in the building. maybe tried to rebuild. I mean, Click's done a decent job of rebuilding the farm as best he could. He had a decent draft last year. Let's see, about a majority of the top 30 players and prospects are James Click guys, as it should be if you're going to be there for 3 years. So that's the thing, is that they just kept butting heads and they couldn't come together on some major decision. And it just finally came to fruition where he had to move on.
You know, and this whole vitriol towards Jim Crane and this toxic organization and everything, he didn't. Hey, listen, he offered him another year. He didn't want it. He was going to give him a minimal deal. He didn't want another year. I'm sorry. A lot of times, you're right. It was mostly Jeff Luhnow's team. Click made some nice moves. He made some not so great moves too. So, but it was mostly Luhnow's team. Everybody who's like all up in arms about the Astros, stop already. We're talking with Michael Schwab, the Juicebox Journal, at Michael Schwab 13. He's the most follow on Twitter if you're an Astros fan. How much is Tucker going to get in arbitration?
Well, I mean, let's see. Fangraphs is saying he'll probably get close to 10. I mean, this is tough because they may have missed out on his window, and that's the thing about it, is that he's someone that you need to sign. You need to sign him immediately because he is the future. He's got right field on lockdown. He is barely scratching the surface of what he can be. When you ban the shift next year, he's only just going to rake. His numbers will rise.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what Fangraphs says. So for Kyle Tucker, they're saying actually his arbitration could be 5.6. I think it might be close to 7.
Oh, no way is it 5.6.
If you look at
his WAR, I mean his Gold Glove.
Well,
Are you kidding me?
look at some of the record-setting deals over the last 3 years. I have a hard time believing Tucker doesn't get to the double digits. I think 10 is.
I think you're right. I think it could even be close to 10 or 12.
Right,
But
I do too.
those are the things that they have to do. Is they have to sign him, and buy out that arbitration, and then you can at least build them through that. And Lance, I want to talk back real quick about what you're saying, is that Crane doesn't spend. You got to look at these major deals.
No, I didn't say he doesn't
Greinke.
spend. I'm saying he didn't buy his, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but he doesn't throw money at trying to buy a team. He has done a really good job of, I think, managing the money inside of. He's managed to make this a sustainable team, which is extraordinarily difficult.
Yes, but I will say with these major trades, you're bringing on gigantic contracts like Verlanders and Greinke. So maybe he's not spending major free agent money, which has never been kind of their big thing. But when you're making huge trades to bring on $35 million a year, Greinke's ridiculous salary as well. Those where you're seeing it.
Short term, though.
And where else he made it? Fromber, Garcia, Urquidy, Abreu, Tucker, all under team control. These are $700,000 players that are playing major roles in World Series. I mean, you don't get that. Jim Crane can thank Jeff Luhnow for that, for finding those guys and signing and developing those guys.
And that's Ozan Campo as well, the guy who's in charge of their international, especially for Dominican, getting you Christian Javier, Brian Abreu, Framber Valdez, Luis Garcia. This is where you need to trust the process. And I don't think this is talked about enough, but Houston has one of the best development systems in Major League Baseball,
right?
Especially for pitching. I mean, incredible scouting, especially international scouting. Incredible scouting of draft players, and then getting guys like Hunter Brown, who should not, who's got the stuff, but drafted a little bit later, who can be incredible work. That's development right there.
Well, and it's so Michael, it's so funny. Baseball America, the Astros are always at the bottom, and yet they keep on bringing up McCormick's and Myers and Peñas and Hunter Browns and Abreu's, and yet they're at the bottom of the list for minor league systems.
That's right, because it's because these like charts and these different like rulings about like these are the top players. They're going off of toolsy things. They're going off of like these are the metrics. They got this arm strength. They got this batting strength. But this was kind of instilled by Lou now. Like here are the major pieces of these guys. Well, okay, maybe he's not fast, but he's got a great bat speed. all right, let's push him. Let's push him going. Maybe this guy's not a great fastball, but he's an unbelievable slider. Let's push that as well. Those things don't do great on a scale, but they do great when they get pushed up through the system. Let me just talk about Seth Martinez for a second. This guy makes no sense. He makes no sense at all. He doesn't have a plus fastball, a plus anything. Yet he's got low ERA. He strikes people out. These are the type of players who do very well in the system because they do something differently. A low launch angle, a high launch angle. The Astros have that, and that will continue to keep growing great players through the years.
All right, we got to cut it there. There's Michael Schwab with us here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Great work. We appreciate it, man, and let's talk to you again.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right, Michael Schwab with us here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.